Hey team, this is Nathan from RunDreamAchieve.com. Hope you guys are all having a great weekend. Today's topic, I wanted to discuss how to run a sub 2 hour 35 marathon. And anybody that's trying to go after this, obviously you have to be extremely strong. You have to be extremely patient because you have to be able to hold 5 minutes and 54 seconds per mile for 26.2 miles. And regardless of what time you're going after, whether you're trying to run, running a sub 235 or you're trying to run a 45-minute 10K, you have to improve your body's lactate tolerance. And it's not a process that comes about quickly. You have to think long term. You have to have a belief in delayed gratification to be really successful in this sport. And the biggest hurdle that most runners have to get over is the fact that whatever goal you're going for, it may take you longer than you fully realize in order to reach your goals. And when I started running marathons in 2002, I never envisioned I would ever run under 2 hours and 20 minutes. In fact, when I was in college, I used to think that athletes trying to run a sub 235 marathon were nuts. Anybody that's trying to run a marathon was crazy, because I was so focused on the 5K and the mile, 2 mile, 3K, 10K events that I never really focused so much that I ever thought I would move toward the marathon. But when you're wanting to run this fast, you have to, like I said in other videos, you do have to practice 5:54 mile pace. You have to practice running at that pace, slightly slower than that pace for a long period of time. Like, when I talk about, improving your body's ability to clear lactic acid faster than it's building up. So yes, you do have to do longer runs at a faster pace. And for somebody that's trying to run 5:54 mile pace for 26.2 miles, you have to start running a larger percentage of that long run that you do, not every single weekend. I talk about, if you're new to the channel, I always talk about doing a faster, very paced long run one weekend, followed the next weekend by a very relaxed, easy long run, so that you always are going to be recovered from each hard anaerobic workout you're doing. And so the mistake that a lot of runners the mistake a lot of runners are making preparing for the marathons is simply they're not spending sufficient time training well below that goal pace. So, examples of the types of workouts you really need to be thinking about doing is, if you're on the track, do repeat miles, get those mile repeats, start doing mile repeats at like 5:15 to 5:20 per rep. And again, you're spending time training well below goal sub 235 marathon race pace. So when I think about how to run a sub 235 marathon, that is what I would be continually reminding myself, continually reminding my body of what I'm training it to do. And so if you're spending too high a percentage and you're running too much of your mileage each week, running at say 6:30 to 7-minute mile pace, yes, you're building endurance, you're building fitness, you're burning fat, but you're not teaching the body to burn fat at race pace. You have to do VO2 max workouts, stress the energy systems of the body sufficiently and adequately enough that you get that race pace to feel more moderate, less aggressive on the body, and you're able to sustain that pace for a longer period of time, longer than your competition. And it's a process. Even when I was at my peak, I only broke the 235 marathon about 7 times total. 2:19:35 is my PR, around 2:26:43 at the 2011 Monumental Indianapolis Marathon. Ran several 2:32 marathons at Sim and other locations, but so a sub 2:35 marathon, extremely fast. That's 5:54 per mile or 3:40 per kilometer for 42.2 straight kilometers. You have to be extremely fit. You have to be strong mentally. So if you're trying to break a 2:35 marathon, you have to start now, taking time out every single day and visualizing yourself getting across that finish line with 2:34:59 on the clock or faster. And a big mistake runners make is we are spending too much of our time focused on physical preparation. Yes, it's critical that you have to train physically in order to run a 2:35 marathon, no question about it. You can't just lay on a couch, close your eyes, and visualize yourself running fast and not doing the physical training. It has to be a combination of both physical and mental training for you to perform at the very highest level possible. And the best middle to long distance runners know how important this is. Sports psychology is extremely powerful. A lot of professional athletes use it. When I was at the Army World Class Athlete Program, I actually had a sports psychologist there on staff And I remember when I first got there, I was, again, back in 2002, my PR was 2:43:36. I had run 51:53 for 10 miles, but for the marathon distance, I was not even remotely close to being a legitimate member of the Army World Class Athlete Program. You needed to run a minimum of 2 hours, 22 minutes flat, which comes out to 5:25 per mile, to be a part of that unit back in 2007 when I arrived there. Now you have to run a minimum of 2 hours and 15 minutes. So yes, physical training is critical, but so is mental training. So this is a very key tip and strategy that I don't believe most runners realize how powerful it is. And you have to train your subconscious mind to do what it is that you envision yourself doing. Yes, you have to be consistent to run a 2:35 marathon. You have to be proper pace in the race. A negative split is absolutely essential. Yes, you can go out and run a positive split in the marathon and run a 2:34:59, but you don't want to go out, run a 1:10 the first half and then come back and run a 1:30 and run 2:40. Okay, so if you go out that fast the first half, yes, you do have a lot of buffer room, but you also have a higher likelihood of running much, much slower in the second half because you went out far too anaerobic. You went into oxygen debt too early, and you weren't able to sustain that race pace that you're going for. Again, very, very fast running, 340 per kilometer or 554 per mile. Takes a very strong athlete, both physically as well as mentally. And hydration. I talk about in all of my other videos how critical, if you want to be a professional in this sport, or you just want to be the very best athlete that you can be, whether you're just getting started in the marathon distance or you're just preparing for your first 5K or 10K, hydration is key. Always look at what the best middle to long distance runners are doing. Most of the time, especially if you ever watch any professional athlete in a race, in an endurance race on the roads, they are paying very close attention to grabbing those water bottles. Do not pass up water stations when you're racing your marathons. If you want to run a sub 2:35, you have to do everything correctly. I also recommend doing at least once per week doing strength training. Get in the weight room, focus on high reps and low weight. You don't have to lift heavy weight, but do focus on explosive type activities, box jumps, medicine ball drills where you're throwing the medicine ball to the side where you're working your core, and to the front of you, throwing the medicine ball up on a wall in front of you, focusing on squats, but again, lightweight, high reps. That will strengthen and make sure that your core and your overall form is improved as you're running your marathon. And again, a sub 2:35 is extremely fast. In my opinion, that's an elite time, because so few athletes run that fast. There's so many runners around the world that run marathons that are just trying to run under 4 hours for the marathon, which is extremely difficult and very competitive time in and of itself. But the faster you're trying to race over the marathon distance and trying to run a 2:35 marathon, much more is going to be required out of you. Again, doing mile repeats in the low fives, so that you get that 554 mile pace to feel more like a tempo pace rather than an all-out effort. Doing speed work, you have to focus on the repeat 400s, getting those repeat 400s around 120 per rep. And as you get fitter, you're going to give in between your rest intervals are going to decrease and your interval paces are going to speed up. And that's the beauty of getting in better shape. Obviously when you first start a marathon training plan, you're not very anaerobically fit. Everything's difficult. You may do a 3-mile tempo and you're going to feel like it's like you're racing a marathon. But later, as the body adapts, you'll be able to do much longer tempo runs, and it'll feel more like a tempo effort rather than an all-out effort like it felt like in the early stages of your build-up. So I hope this video at least gives you an idea of some of the things you really need to be thinking about. Mental training, hydration practices. Make sure during your long runs you're paying attention to your hydration. Every 3 miles or every 5K, drop some water bottles out. Drive your car or truck or whatever, around the course that you're planning on running. Every 3 miles or so, every 5K or so, drop a water bottle out so that you can practice hydrating properly during training so that when you get in the race, you don't make the mistake that a lot of marathoners make. And if you're going to run a 2:35 marathon, you have to make sure you're not only trained properly. That's why I've created the running courses and the training plans on RunDreamAchieve.com. There is monthly coaching that's available that I coach athletes from around the world now online. There are resources on RunDreamAchieve.com for you if you want to take your running to your next level, regardless if you're trying to run 2:35 marathon or you're trying to set a personal best in the 10K or the mile. So if this video, if you have any other questions or concerns, definitely leave me a comment below. Give me a like if you can. Share this video. It helps more athletes around the world see these videos, and definitely helps with the the YouTube algorithm. So really appreciate your support, and I will talk to you all in the next video.